no water in here. I tricked you, lol. You fell for it. You fell for it.
Oh, good for you.
What's up, guys? They were talking about The Flash, which is a movie that I saw yesterday. How cool. And I was kind of late to the party, but I saw it and we're talking about it because it's 2023 and that's cool. And we're talking about movies in 2023. So I'm just going to make a disclaimer real quick. I don't want to talk about Ezra Miller and his actual personal life. I'm just going to talk about his performance. Obviously, I'm going to talk about other stuff. I'm going to talk about Ezra Miller's performance. I just don't want to turn into this big argument about how Ezra Miller is just such a bad person. I don't want to talk about his personal life. I'm focusing on the movie today, and I am going to do that. Also, welcome to the new studio. This is probably going to be my new studio for a couple of probably years or hopefully months because I want to stay consistent. And this is going to be decorated. This is not complete. So there's lights in the background, all this stuff. I'm building it right now. But it's going good. So today we're talking about The Flash. So, in The Flash, Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. And I was really excited for this movie. There have been multiple reshoots. There have been different directors, different writers, different people just coming in and making this movie. It was supposed to come out when the original show started, the actual Flash show. And it just got delayed, and now we're all the way over here. So this movie has taken over a decade to get made. And did it pay off? I think so. I genuinely believe this movie was so much fun. It surprised the living heck out of me. And the hype it received at CinemaCon was crazy, and people calling it the greatest superhero movie of all time. I disagree wildly. I don't think it's in the top 5 superhero movies of all time, but it's possibly in the top 20, and I just adored this movie so much. It blew me away. It exceeded so many of my expectations. I was really, really hoping I would like this movie, because on the ride to the theater, I was like, ooh, from what I'm hearing, that this movie, it has been getting really high praise until it actually came out, because after that, the Rotten Tomatoes score went into the 60s, the IMDb score dropped from 10 out of 10 to 7.4, and people are now calling this a terrible, awful movie, and people are calling it overrated. So I was really, really, really both excited and nervous, because I was really hoping I would like it, but I was just thinking oof, the rating says that there's nudity. I don't know if there's it's partial. It's not what you are expecting probably. But so if you want to take your kids to this movie, I would say fine. There is some stabbing, there is but there's not a lot of blood, and there's a scene where Barry is sort of running too fast that his clothes get on fire, and then he has to take off his clothes in front of the entire city, and he's completely naked, completely. So I don't know if they're gonna laugh at that or be uncomfortable. I don't know. I was laughing, I think, but yeah, I think your kids will be okay with this if you're a parent. But back to my expectations, everyone was now saying that it was it's overrated. Not everyone, actually, some people did. And so I just got very nervous about this movie. But again, it surprised the heck out of me. I absolutely loved it. The story of the Flashpoint story, it's one of my favorite storylines from the entire comics, or just the entire DC universe. And I just loved how they executed it here. I thought it was incredible. It was so much fun. And the performances, in my opinion, were amazing. Ezra Miller, again, I'm not going to talk about everything else, but in this movie, he is so good. He's so funny. He has a great comedic timing. And as both versions of Barry Allen, he's awesome. He's so charismatic, and he has so much likability to him, not as a real person, but in this movie, he does. And The Flash is one of the best characters in The Flash. But I would say possibly, I don't know, maybe the most cool character in this movie is, of course, Michael Keaton as Batman, and Ben Affleck is in this movie too. And I loved him in this movie. I was like, where was this in the other DC movies? He was really, really good in this movie. He was badass. He was so cool, and he did so many things that were just so awesome, and I just loved him in this movie. But he didn't have that much screen time. Unfortunately, he had very, very little screen time. He was sort of in the beginning, but then they didn't really expand on that because the ending, well, it's a big twist, but and it had the audience going crazy. But I really think Michael Keaton is incredible. He has, again, not the most screen time in the world, but more than Ben Affleck, a lot more, and he was just awesome. He was so cool. He's such a cool dude. And again, where was this in the original Batman movies? I mean, he was cool there, but here he's just insanely good. He's awesome. And everything he does, like, for example, this. Batman, what do we do now? He's like, we try not to die. It's so cool. I mean, that's probably not cool to a lot of people. I don't know. I like it a lot. And Sasha Calle gives a really, really good performance. She has not the most screen time in the world. So there are a lot of people who get really shortchanged in this movie, but when they are on screen, they deliver great performances. And she really was she didn't talk a lot, but her performance alone was just awesome. So I think the performances in this movie were top notch, incredible. And I love that. That was one of my favorite aspects of this movie. And the characters they play in this movie, too, were awesome. The Flash, he's such a great character. Batman, both versions are great. Michael Keaton a bit more, but both of them are amazing characters in this movie. Supergirl is also an amazing character. And there are some cameos in this movie that had the audience going nuts. That, like, my dad, he was watching it with me, and I apparently kept moving my seat a lot because the seat's really high, so it was hard for me to see it. But that doesn't take away from the movie because it was just on the bottom. So if there was anything really important that happened at the very bottom of the screen, please tell me, because I don't know. But because the chairs were like really high, but I kept on wobbling, so I had my seat, so I had to move one seat next to that seat so that he wasn't bothered by it. But then something happened near the end, and I was speechless with his reaction, and I went crazy too in my head, but I started clapping. I started clapping, and the audience just went crazy. Everyone was clapping, cheering. It was so cool. And then the ending, same thing. Everyone went crazy, and oh my God, it was such a cool experience in the theater, and it was so much fun too. And, all of these characters were awesome. Now, this movie isn't perfect by any means, and there are wasted characters, like I said, and some of the villains, like Michael Shannon as General Zod, he was wasted. He had like 5 minutes of screen time, and he didn't talk a lot. He was just like, we've been waiting for you, and like, just normal villain lines. I just think they wasted his character, which was unfortunate. And I think the movie probably gets worse as it moves on and on, even though by the end I was still having an absolute blast. So the movie The movie starts off on an incredible note, and it gets better and better and more interesting, and then it sort of takes a dive in the third act. The third act is the worst act, but it's not the worst act in the world. I thought it was a really fun act, and it was so much fun, all these characters battling on screen. People said it was messy, but I disagree. I thought it was a lot of fun, and had me really engaged and entertained in the movie. And I think the visuals and CGI, they were probably the worst aspect of this movie, but they weren't bad. I thought they were really good, honestly. And, I actually agree with what the director said after everyone was complaining about the bad CGI. Everyone sort of is hating on the CGI, and then he was sort of like, no, the reason it looks like that is because you're experiencing it from Flash's point of view. And people are saying that's an excuse, but when I watched this movie after knowing what he said, it made sense. It was really, really obvious that he was actually trying to do that from Flash's perspective. The running scenes, people said they look weird, and they do, but that's on purpose because you have to see how Flash is perceiving it. And, maybe that is an excuse, and maybe they just didn't have the budget as the movie went along, but I think that he was actually telling the truth there. But you can believe whatever you want to believe. I don't care. I don't matter. I'm just like a dumb 10-year-old. But again, the visuals and CGI aren't bad. 10-year-old that repeats stuff all the time. It's so annoying. I'm editing this video right now, and one thing I forgot to mention is the visuals. Something about the visuals. I forgot while recording that there were so many scenes that it was very obvious that it was a deepfake, or it was another person that was playing Ezra, trying to be Ezra Miller, and it just looked really odd, and it looked like a stunt double or a deepfake. And there were many scenes like this one where in the background you just see like it's a completely different actor. So that was one of the biggest issues with the visuals. But again, I thought that the visuals besides that were actually great. So hot take, but it's my opinion. So yay. And this movie was so much fun, in my opinion. It was just such a fun theater experience. All the crowds cheering and clapping and everything like that. It was so entertaining. And it's probably one of the top 5 theater experiences of my life. And I absolutely love this movie. So overall, The Flash is a big win for DC. It's wildly entertaining, has great characters, and it's also extremely emotional. The humor is super consistent, and the performances are great too. This one really surprised me, and it's also a huge crowd pleaser. See this one with the crowd. I guarantee you're going to have a great time. And make sure it's packed, because that'll be awesome. And the comments work now. I'm actually serious. Like, I figured out why they weren't working, so I thought it was just because Google knew I was 10, but now the comments work. I know how to do it. Like, sub if you want to, do all that stuff if you want to. I'm not gonna force you to, because then you're gonna not do it, because you're gonna say, Sarty, you're bossing me around and you're really, really, really mean. Okay, I'm not gonna do it, I promise. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. See you soon.